Welcome back, everyone. Jake here. Currently, we're on day 102 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and it's estimated that over 30,000 Russian soldiers have been killed so far. This is an extremely deadly conflict for both sides, but Russia is still losing several hundred soldiers a day. Now, in the comments section, people have asked Jake, how many troops has Ukraine lost? And the honest answer is, I don't know. And I don't even think Ukraine knows, given the chaos of what is going on in their country. I think the war needs to end before Ukraine can take a complete census as to how many troops they've lost. However, on June 1st, President Zelenskyy did admit to the nation that Ukraine is losing between 60 and 100 soldiers a day. Once again, this is an extremely deadly conflict for both sides, as this is the most intense fighting that the European continent has seen since World War II. However, I am still declaring that Ukraine is winning this war. President Zelenskyy is the master of soft power and public relations, and he was pretty smart to put out this picture. So what you're looking at here is the famous picture on day 2 of the war, in which President Zelenskyy and his advisors decided not to flee the country. The United States gave the offer of, we'll send in helicopters and get you and your people out. Zelenskyy famously said, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition, we're staying and we're fighting. Russia failed to topple a government. And here we are on day 100. It's the same 5 men, basically in the same location, in broad daylight. If this isn't an indication that Ukraine is winning this war, I don't know what is. Something I want to quick share with you guys that I didn't catch last month, but apparently on May 4th, this is Star Wars Day, President Zelenskyy hid this Easter egg in a photo that he published, and I didn't notice it at the time, but if you zoom in on the Ukrainian trident on his shoulder, there's actually an X-wing inside the trident. So Mark Hamill noticed this and expressed his public support for President Zelenskyy, public support for the Ukrainian people. It's just little Easter eggs like this that gets people really excited on the internet. So let's now switch to the war map, and once again, the battle for Donbass is what is occurring right now. Ukraine has been experiencing a lot of success pushing the Russians back around Kharkiv, as the Russian military is focusing almost exclusively on this one town in the Luhansk Oblast. All they want for a propaganda win after 3 months of fighting and heavy losses, all they want right now is this town of Severodonetsk. And even though they're going to trumpet this as a propaganda win, I still argue that it's not that big of a deal. When you look at the Luhansk Oblast, there's only 2 cities in this entire region with a population of greater than 100,000 prior to the war, and the Russians controlled the capital city prior to this conflict breaking out. So in 3 months of fighting, supposedly the world's second most powerful military can't even take the second town in this oblast. This is all basically rural farmland up here. And not only has Ukraine been holding out for 3 months continuously, but really they've been holding out for 8 years as the Russian armed separatists in Luhansk have been trying to take this town basically since 2014. So is Russia going to take it? And, as a complete amateur looking at the map, it makes sense to me if the Ukrainians would just fall back to the other side of the river and reinforce this town of Lysychansk. However, they're still basically surrounded on 3 sides, and it makes sense if they even pulled back to the towns of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. Apparently, these cities are on the high ground, and they're more easily fortified and easily defended. But that's not what the Ukrainians decided to do. They wanted to deny the Russians the propaganda win of taking the entire Luhansk Oblast. So they reinforced the town. They rushed in more material, more supplies, more troops. And even though Russians were in the city, making progress block by block, the Ukrainians are counterattacking and pushing them back. Russia is suffering huge casualties as troops retreat inside the city. Ukraine says it has recaptured a chunk of the factory city of Severodonetsk, and the focus, which has been the focus of this recent Russian attack. I want to show you a video that, once again, might be a little disturbing. Nobody is injured, and hopefully these DNR fighters are taken as prisoners of war and they're treated humanely. But this video is of captured soldiers that were fighting for the Donetsk People's Republic, basically being controlled by the Russians, inside the city of Severodonetsk. So this video was taken within the last couple days, and I think it actually explains a lot about what's going on the ground inside this city.
Так, звать тебя как? Андрей. Андрей, фамилия? Откуда сам? Быстро говори. Шахтер. Кто командир? Бегом, бегом!
Скрипа.
Кто такой Скрипла, бля? Кто он? Командир чего?
Командир, ну, наши...
Как подразделение называется? Подразделение ваше название?
Пехота.
Какая в пизду пехота, блядь? Полностью говори.
Ну, я в этом не разбираюсь, честно.
Название как ваше?
Ну, ДНР.
ДНР. Народная милиция. Что говори, блядь?
Народная милиция.
Это то, что я сказал, блядь?
Нет, это и было народная.
Сколько лет?
Нет, 30.
Дети есть?
Да.
А какого ж хуя ты попёрся, блядь?
За деньги.
За деньги, блядь. Я понял. Вот такие занимаются хуйней, продают свою страну, блядь. Сними. Молодой же еще, ёб твою мать. Еще все впереди, блядь. Надел эту белую повязку, блядь. За что? За зетку, блядь, пацаны. Это ж фашистская херня. Да ну какой, блядь, застав. На приеме. Где работал?
В образовании, в школе.
В школе? Ёб твою мать. В каком городе, селе, в каком?
Амросенко.
Амросенко, блядь. А сейчас чуть не сдох, ебать, да? И вот такие...
So once again, these two men on the ground have just been taken prisoner. There's still explosions and the sound of gunshots going on all around. This is an active war zone. But look at how these two men are equipped and their just general demeanor and physical appearance versus this Ukrainian fighter. Look at all the equipment and gear he has on him versus what these DNR fighters are dressed as. So here's a thread on Twitter from the account Trained Infantry, and he actually does a really good job of explaining this video and what its significance is. This is what he says. There is a lot to unpack from this video for the purposes of this thread. The assumption is that we are looking at a timely Severodonetsk counterattack video. The short form, the Russian army has run out of trained infantry, which is what this culmination point means. So Ukraine has inflicted on the order of 79,000 killed in action or wounded in action to date. Of the 190,000 Russian troops that invaded 3 months ago, only between 10 and 20% were trained dismounted infantrymen, most likely on the lower end due to the Russian ghost troops corruption. What is 10% of 190,000? That's 19,000. What's 20%? That's 38,000. So Russia has not only burned through all of its infantry in 3 months, it has burned through all of the LNR infantry as well. This is the Luhansk separatist Oblast fighters. Which is why bolt-action rifle-armed DNR troops were sent to both Mariupol and now Severodonetsk in Luhansk. They and the Chechen National Guard units were the last reserves of the Russian infantry in all of Ukraine. The DNR is armed forces of one of Russia's two puppet separatist republics. The fiction of that status is the DNR fighting, on behalf of the Luhansk in support of Russia's offensive is a joke. So those two DNR prisoners in the video tell you a lot by the way they look. They have no body armor of any kind, not even Afghanistan-era anti-fragment vests. They have no tactical web gear. They have no helmets. All these, yes, might have been taken from them prior to filming this video, But one of the prisoners still has a belt, and the small arms in the background argue they didn't have time for the Ukrainians to basically take it away before filming this video. They were captured in that state. So note as well that both DNR soldiers had one white cloth tied around both armbands, visual identification of friend and foe. So there are videos of Ukrainian ground forces using the flag patches and yellow cloth for the same purpose. What does this tell us? Committing DNR infantry in close combat in Severodonetsk was lunacy, born of a complete and utter desperation by Russia. So I showed you how this Ukrainian fighter looks. He's got radios, he's got body armor, he's got, the best helmet money can buy, he's got cameras, he's got modern assault rifles. Whereas these Russian reservists being sent in, they're being sent in with basically, Soviet-era bolt-action rifles. They're not even giving them modern assault rifles to go into urban combat, city to city, block to block. Like, this is just absolutely insane. But why is Russia doing this? One, they don't care about these people. They don't care about the DNR or the LNR separatists because ultimately it's Ukrainians killing Ukrainians. I think Russia views this as a win-win. So yes, send in the DNR infantry, the LNR infantry. Don't give them modern equipment. Don't give them any real support. If they win, they win. If they die, they die. Russia views it as a win. But it's also a sign of desperation that Russia is running out of their own trained professional ground infantry capable of going, block by block, building by building. The fact that they're forcing these DNR, LNR conscripts into urban combat when this is not what they're trained for. A lot of these DNR, LNR fighters are basically revolting. There's a video that went viral this week. Russian separatist troops mutiny against Putin on video. Commander complains his men have been thrown into bloody fighting without food, equipment, or medicine, and despite suffering chronic illnesses. I'll link this video down below if you want to watch it, but I'll show you just the first couple seconds of this clip.
Практически весь период проведения специальной военной операции наша рота в составе 5-го стрелкового батальона 113-го стрелкового полка находилась на линии боевого соприкосновения на территории Херсонской области, Украина. За это время личный состав.
So these DNR and LNR fighters were basically tricked into this war. What has happened in this Donbass region is that when the separatists kicked out all of the government agencies, de facto Russia became the government agencies. Funding had to come from somewhere for the hospitals and the schools, the universities, all of the major industry. So what Russia did is they said, we're only going to give jobs at the schools, at the government buildings, at the hospitals. Jobs will only go to people if they're also reservists for the DNR and the LNR. And all of these men, rather than being destitute and unemployed, took the jobs in the schools and the government buildings and the factories with the condition that they had to be reservists for the DNR and LNR. Sure enough, Russia decided to go to war and basically abducted all of these men and forced them to fight, and has been using them brutally. It's not they're in a supporting role. Russia has been pushing them out to the front. Once again, Ukrainians fighting Ukrainians. Russia views that as a victory. And after 3 months of this conflict, without being given proper equipment, being given medicine, being given food, respecting their humanity and dignity, a lot of these DNR and LNR fighters are openly mutinying. That's what this video basically is about. Meanwhile, these Russian forces keep fighting the best equipment that NATO has to offer. Here's a picture I saw on the Twitter channel, Ukraine Weapons Tracker, And this is a sneak peek at the weapons used by the Foreign Volunteer Unit fighting for Ukraine in Donetsk. We've got machine guns from the United States, Panzerfaust III from Germany, NLAWs from Great Britain, and M80 Zolja anti-tank launchers from, I think this is Croatia and Slovenia. So we've got, once again, every day, and we're on day 102, every day, millions to billions of dollars worth of supplies and weapons flow across NATO borders into Ukraine to resupply and reinforce the Ukrainians, while Russia is basically on their own. Here's also a pretty good story about the people in Lithuania crowdfunded enough money to buy a Bayraktar TB2 drone. I think one of these costs several $1,000,000. And this is the official Twitter handle for the company Baykar. They make the TB2 drone. And after learning that the Lithuanian people crowdfunded several $1,000,000 to buy this drone for Ukraine, they decided to donate the drone to the Ukrainian army for free, and then all the money that the Lithuanians raised will go towards humanitarian aid for Ukrainians. So pretty incredible what the world and what Ukraine is doing, what the world and Europe is doing for Ukraine right now. Let's wrap up this video by sharing some art drawn by children in Ukraine. This is a picture from 12-year-old Ilya. She's from the town of Hernik. She's had to leave her home because of the fighting, and she's showing the Ukrainian forces once again defending the women and children of Ukraine. Here's a pretty cute picture. This was drawn by 11-year-old Ksenia from Bucha, and this is just pretty cute. It's kind of in the anime style. You've got Ukraine in the center, being surrounded and supported and helped by other countries within Europe. Pretty adorable. And here it is. Here's a picture of the capital city, Kiev, on day 100 of this war. And it's very encouraging that you see down here the fountains in the main square are on. You've got tents on the road with markets selling produce. You've got civilian cars driving through the streets, trying to carry on life as normal. Yes, I think Ukraine is still under martial law and Kyiv is still being actively bombed by Russia, but eventually Russia will exhaust itself and just have to give up on this disastrous invasion. Is Ukraine really going to kick out the Russian forces from all of these occupied cities, occupied territories? And I don't think that's how this war is going to end. I think eventually Russia is going to exhaust itself, economically collapse, and then just give up and pull back to their borders. When will that happen? Time will only tell. I'm feeling encouraged that once again we've made it to day 100 and the government is still standing. The troops on the ground are still willing to fight. They're not ceding any inch of territory to the Russian aggressors. And meanwhile, the Russian forces are poorly equipped, poorly trained, becoming more demoralized by the day. It really is only a matter of time. Okay, everyone, that's all for this update video. If you found it informative, give me a thumbs up. Really helps out with the channel. If you know something I don't, let me know in a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care.